Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by Shannon Square Rental Properties and Chapman and Plama Law. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Welcome back, everybody, to WSTU, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm your host, Reese Gabbett, and today I'm here with some friends of mine. I think almost all of us go to South Fork High School. We'll just go around the room and everybody can introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Crombie, Martin County High School.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeremy Ortman, and I go to South Fork.
Hello, I'm Connor Fuchs, and I also go to South Fork.
Hi, I'm Daniel Geralds from the one and only South Fork High School.
Well, all right. So Martin County is representing with one in the house.
Pure
Only
male energy today, folks.
Total testosterone.
Oh, wow.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So much going on once again.
It's kind of hard to.
I like the way you guys prep because, back in the day, we would have a lot of notepads and things of that sort. You guys just pick out your personal devices, scroll through your notes. And nice.
We don't have to sit and sift through news or anything like that.
None of that newspaper
Yuck.
BS,
It's a drag, honestly.
So, you're on.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah. All right, so do you guys want to start with Canada?
Let's do it.
Okay, so for those who don't know, yesterday, recreational marijuana was legalized countrywide in Canada.
Beautiful.
And that's where we start. Anybody want to give off their opinions?
I think it's a good move.
Yeah.
I think that tax money flowing in from the Mary Jane is a good thing. I mean, they're pouring it into education and drug rehabilitation programs, it sounds like.
They're going to need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was your youth and government bill.
Yeah, that was my youth and government bill. And honestly, I'm all for something like this. I think the tax money that is generated by something like this is pretty useful. I think that, if people are allowed to drink, why shouldn't people be allowed to smoke? That's where I stand on it.
Interesting stuff.
All right. What about you, Daniel?
Let's hear it.
I think it's great I think they're only the second nation worldwide to legalize it. So I think that's a really cool move.
Wasn't the Netherlands the first, or who?
Some South American country.
Was it?
Yeah, Bolivia.
Bolivia.
I thought it was legal in the Netherlands.
Bolivia and South America.
Bolivia. I mean, it's already legal there. Let's be honest. They didn't have to announce that. It's
Uruguay was the first country.
I think it's a good experiment, especially for us, because we have all the conflicts right now with the states passing medical marijuana and recreational. It's kind of like a mess, even just between the states or even in your own state. So I think it's kind of cool to see how they're going to deal with that. And then we can use whatever they learn in the U.S. if we ever want to start passing a bill.
Right, because the states are kind of like an incubator program for the United States. So if it works in one state, another state may want to look at it. So Colorado tried this, right? And now they're kind of rethinking it because they thought that the taxes, was going to be a good thing to help finance because it costs a lot to run the state of Colorado. It's a big state and roads and so many other things going on. Well, not so much when they discovered that people were more lethargic, not enough work was getting done, employment is down. It is not working out very well. So Colorado is really rethinking that. So
that's interesting because I know that California, Oregon, Massachusetts, Washington, they've also joined this fight to legalize recreational marijuana. Yeah, and so it seems like at least on the West Coast and in the Midwest, it's kind of growing and becoming a bigger thing. And I know that I think in this election cycle, Florida is voting on an amendment for recreational marijuana, and a bunch of other states are voting for recreational. Did I say that right? Medicinal and recreational marijuana.
Right.
So it seems like it may not be working out for Colorado, but it seems like it's, we can see it be tested with other states.
Exactly.
I mean, it's legally medicinal here in Florida.
Correct.
I believe it's also just got legalized medically in Georgia, I believe.
All right.
And I mean, So it does seem like it's still spreading, even if Colorado's not.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and you learn on a state by state basis, and what may or may not work in Colorado may or may not work somewhere else. So,
yeah, if anything, I'm sure everybody there is really relaxed and just laid back.
yeah,
Very
man.
happy.
Yeah, it's working. I promise.
So, yeah, my personal feeling is it's probably not going to be very good for productivity.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. What
All right.
do you
I
think,
can see
Jeremy?
that. Oh, you go ahead, Jeremy.
I'm kind of along the lines of Daniel. Like, if smoking cigarettes is legal and drinking alcohol is legal, then why not give it a shot? But at the same time, like I do feel like Frank said, the productivity would kind of go down. And I think, like with all things, just moderation and not using it too much. Just like I said, moderation would definitely help.
Yeah.
I think a big problem with that is that because marijuana is classified federally as a Class A substance,
Right.
there's not a lot of research that can be done. A lot of the substances like heroin, cocaine, marijuana, LSD that are Class A substances, it's really hard for researchers to obtain them legally in states where they don't, where it's not legal, and they have the equipment in those states to like test it and do like research studies. And because of that like designation, it's hard to actually come to conclusions on the effects, because like there are not a lot of like actual like substantive reports that show us the impacts of marijuana, like short term or even long term. So I think that like that's step one, that whether or not Trump, like he said, he may go back on that federal ban on marijuana, not even just with weed, but like with different substances. I think that the first step is classifying them lower so that we can actually understand them better and see if there are medicinal uses, and maybe we may not think what we used to think, and they may actually be good for us or may not be harmful.
And also the crime rate would definitely go down with all these, like, I guess, non-violent drug crimes related to marijuana. I mean, that's taken up a real large majority of our prison system. And we have, I think, like the most people incarcerated on marijuana
charges.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it would help. It would do more good than it would bad. And that's
All right.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Okay.
Alrighty.
I guess.
And if you have an opinion out there, you can call us at 220-WSTU. That's 220-9788. And if you want to watch us instead of listen to us, you can watch on our YouTube channel. We're streaming live right now.
That's
And
right.
that's always an option.
WSTU1450.com or WSTUTV.com.
There you go.
Yep.
Nice.
Absolutely.
All right, what's
Yeah.
next, guys?
Moving on from the marijuana, how about those 4,000 refugees moving from where was
Honduras.
it? Honduras.
So I'll find the tweet real quick if you want to give us some background, Connor.
So basically what I've heard is there's a 4,000 strong group of refugees approaching the Mexican border from Honduras, and President Trump has you can go ahead and read the tweet.
All right. So Donald Trump tweeted out, "The United States has strongly informed the president of Honduras that if the large caravan of people heading to the U.S. is not stopped and brought back to Honduras, no more money or aid will be given to Honduras, effective immediately."
Yeah. And, so they have to go, and we talked about this before, right? During this last wave. They have to go through Mexico. So they need to have legal papers from Honduras to Mexico. And if they're looking for protection because they're afraid to be at home in Honduras for whatever reason, then why can't they get amnesty protection in Mexico? Why do they need to come to the U.S.? So that's question number one. Number two, Mexico would have to stamp their papers to give them, allow them into Mexico, and then further allow them
And that was a big issue that we had with Mexico not too long ago.
Right. Exactly. So it's like
It's 4,000 strong.
Right. It started out as
A lot of people.
1,300.
1,300.
Oh, is this that same caravan that months ago I heard about?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, it started out as 1,300 a few weeks ago.
And how do they plan on getting to the United States?
They're rail and on foot.
Like just all coming in together? Or?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's pretty good exercise, walking that far.
Sure.
Good for them.
I said they were strong, 4,000 strong.
Yeah, I mean, that is very
Yeah.
strong to walk a couple thousand miles. Good for them.
Right. So what are your thoughts? Do you think we should just, lower our barricades and welcome them in, or what are your thoughts?
Well, that's a touchy subject about immigration.
Great question.
It is a great question. On one side, I like to look at both sides. For one side, they're probably not in the best situation, and America is a melting pot that you can immigrant into, and we are more or less taking in immigrants, not so much illegal immigrants, but legal immigrants. But on the other side, I've discussed about this before on here. People coming in illegally, they're living on our soil, taking jobs, but not paying taxes, not doing the civic duty that citizens of the United States would.
Right.
So that's the other issue. If one way to combat this, I would think, is to we're just going into immigration in general, is to make it easier for people to come in and become citizens. Mm-hmm. I've actually spoken to somebody who I'm kind of close with, who is an illegal, and I was talking about being a citizen. And he says it's pretty much impossible. It's hard to be he was brought here when he was much younger, and he's worried for turning 18. So that really opened my eyes to the other side of the picture. It's not really my place to say, but I don't know.
All right.
As for this group of 4,000, I think that just waltzing into the United States is not the best move.
Yeah, I think one teacher explained it to me. If you are able to if you want to give gum to one person in the class, you have to be able to give gum to everybody in the class. So if it starts with this large amount of people, then the U.S. really has no reason to deny that to anybody else.
Yeah, I agree with that, because then people are gonna be like, oh, well, my situation's pretty bad too, and I have to wait like 18 years to get my citizenship.
Yeah, that's a great point. It wouldn't be fair to everybody else.
Right. And for somebody like, ourselves, we're all born here, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be the equivalent of you coming home after a day of school and you find somebody else sitting at your kitchen table, and he says, hello,
where's my dinner?
I'm here, and oh, by the way, your bedroom, you'll have to sleep on the couch because I got your bed. How did that work? And you say, well, wait a minute. I was here first, I thought. So get in line. There's the way I understand it, the way the system should work is, everybody agrees it's a broken system, but ideally you knock on the door and ask to be let in, right? You come to the gate, you knock on the door, and you ask for permission to get in. Once you're in, you're part of the legal process system. The problem that this government has is that people that just show up and haven't taken the liberty to at least knock on the door.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, personally, I think it's a lack of education from both sides of the aisle. On one side, you have individuals, predominantly coming from South and Latin America, who just don't have information and have the resources to understand our immigration process. So as a result, when they come to the United States, either A, they don't know what to do and it leaves them, below the poverty line, which is bad, or B, they just don't understand our legal processes, and as a result, they come here illegally. But on the other hand, I think it's that the United States really is misinformed on how we classify these different countries where people who are seeking refuge or are amnesty asylum seekers, what situation they're in. Because I think that, a large problem coming from the Northern Triangle and Latin and South America is that, the classifications we gave to these Latin American countries 10, 20 years ago on what we consider to be people seeking refuge, these amnesty asylum seekers, that's not the same today. We know that Latin America is destabilizing politically and socially, right? There's a lot of issues with a lot of countries like El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, right? People are fleeing here in the millions. Yet we still have the same policy that the people who are coming here shouldn't be granted amnesty or this asylum seeking status, because what we consider to be the stability of the government 20 years ago is not what it is today. So I think that the U.S. government just needs to do a better job, one, maybe providing those resources so people understand how to come here legally, but more importantly, understanding that our designations of refugees 20 years ago and today are much different. And especially since the Trump administration instituted their zero tolerance policy at the border, you see more families seeking asylum that are being turned away. And that's why they're incentivized to come here illegally, because it's if they have a terrible situation at home and the U.S. government cannot recognize that, then there's no incentive for them to try to attempt to come here legally. So that's my take.
I believe the process to become a United States citizen should definitely be more told, and what's the best way you could do this instead of just coming here illegally and then just getting either kicked out or staying under the radar.
Yeah, if you go to the website, there's a government website, USCIS .gov, and it's very clear step-by-step process. It's easily available. You just Google it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
When you're in Latin America, and you're a farmer or whatever it may be, and you're just trying to put food on the table,
right?
People don't have these resources. And even if they do understand the process, right, and they're seeking amnesty, they think, well, I live in a country where last year there were 10,000 political prisoners taken. It's really bad. Probably going to be a coup any week now. I really think that I can come here legally, or I can come here seeking amnesty. And then they get to the border and the courts say, well, they give you 5-10 minutes after waiting 6 months. And they say, well, we really don't think that you qualify as an amnesty asylum seeker. You need to go back. It's like, it's not really incentivizing anyone to do their job, not the people in the courts, not Border Patrol, not the U.S. government, not people who want to come here. So I don't know. I mean, I just think that there needs to be, it may not even be like clarity about it, just more education, more opportunities. I've talked about on here before, like a while back, that like I thought personally a good solution, and I've talked about this with different like debate events I've gone to, is that you provide like NGOs in these countries that give people money, they give them passports, they provide them the resources so that they don't have an excuse.
Right.
And I think that, as a whole, it's such a polarizing issue. It's such like a, on the line issue between different parties that like there is middle ground, and we just need to find that middle ground. And I don't think it's hard. We just need to find middle ground that, balances helping individuals with protecting the security of our immigration system.
Right. And what should the security of our immigration system look like? I mean, in an ideal world, in a perfect world, what should that look like, Sam?
I mean, I think it's up to the U.S. government to determine a couple of things, like whether or not we want refugees from a specific area based on whether or not it's a terrorism threat or if it's a threat to national security. Determine whether or not we want like specific quotas of people from specific regions. But I think like the big issue right now with like asylum seekers and refugees is asylum seekers, not refugees, is that, and granting them amnesty, is that you need to determine like very well their situation that they're in, and see whether or not that they should get that amnesty. A big problem is that, like I was kind of talking about, kind of hinting to, is that you have these court systems, right, that are backlogged with literally millions of cases a year. Right. And after waiting a couple months to get into one of these courts, they're so backlogged that you get 5 to 10 minutes to tell your story about why you're coming from Honduras, El Salvador, Latin, South America, and why you're trying to escape persecution. And that's it. That's all you get. So I think it's a problem with, how we view these people seeking amnesty. It's a problem with whether or not, because like, again, I think there are scenarios where you have well-off families who just want to kind of skip the process and can come here legally. But I think for a lot of cases, these judges don't realize the extent of, the family situation that these people are in. So I think that, of course, there's a level of like security you have to maintain. Right. We need border security, and we should, immigration's a privilege. It's not a right. We should be able to be selective with that. But I think that this issue stems from like, we're not like being selective, we're being ignorantly selective. We're not choosing people based on whether or not we think their situation is good or not. It's kind of just like blankets we're throwing on them. So, but I think you can still maintain security in our immigration system. You just have to like, again, find a middle ground between, one radical end, close borders, and another radical end, open borders, and just try to find some middle ground for, because like immigration is great for the United States, right? The Center for Immigration Studies has a lot of reports about how immigration is like really great, and there's a lot of positive things to come out of it. But there needs to be middle ground.
All right, very well said. Anybody else want to chime in? Anybody else?
I just thought it was funny. I was researching the central west, like all the farmers they're losing so many workers because they were all immigrants, so that they're all like underworked. And then some people argue like, oh, they're taking all the jobs, but then when you have like farm work, a lot of people aren't really willing to take these jobs. So it's, I don't know, just kind of like a balance of finding whether or not you think that whether their situation's bad and what opportunities they have in the U.S.
Yeah. And also, like, to add on to that, I think that like this whole idea that like, immigrants are taking our jobs, it's kind of stupid, because why would you want to prioritize a lazy American over an ambitious immigrant?
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Like a lot of us are the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of immigrants who came here capitalizing off the laziness of Americans and their ambition.
I think
So
that's,
it's like,
that's a really good point.
what's the problem?
I mean, we have friends that have 4 jobs. Like Dylan,
Yeah,
he has
Dylan.
4 different jobs. If him, and I mean, like, if he can get 4 jobs, I'm sure it's not very difficult
Yeah.
for someone to get up off their couch
Oh,
and
it's
go
more than
go-
4.
It's got to be like double digits by now, to be honest. But
It's ridiculous.
And if these immigrants are doing jobs like Daniel said on the farms, or like low-paying jobs that no one else wants to do, who are we to stop them from doing that? Because these positions need to be filled. Then, like you guys said, ambition would definitely be appreciated in any one of those areas.
Absolutely.
All right. So anybody want to take a DNA test? We'll talk about that.
do we have time, or do we want to talk about that after the break?
Well, we got about 4 minutes, and then we can take our break.
Okay, we can roll into it real quick.
All right.
Pocahontas.
That's it. Yeah, you need
Connor, you
understood my
legendary
segue.
Elizabeth
I've already introduced the refugee crisis. How about Jeremy? Bring us in with this.
I haven't really heard too much about this, but apparently Elizabeth Warren, a senator, has tried to claim Native American heritage for quite a while now.
Yeah, well,
And
she used it to get into what Dartmouth. There was
I think it was Harvard Law.
Harvard
Wow,
Law,
something
okay.
like that.
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
and
all right.
she just recently took a DNA test that, in order to corroborate
Yeah.
her stories that she was telling, and that DNA test did not support her claims.
Actually, I believe that Donald Trump made an exclamation that said he'll donate $1 million to whatever charity she wants if she takes a DNA test to prove that she's Native American.
Right.
Then she took it, and it showed that she was 1,024th Native
Right.
American,
Yes.
which is far less than the average American. And so in response, she's like, okay, I took it. It shows I have Native American DNA in me. Donate the $1 million. He's like, okay, I'll donate 1,024th of $1 million to whatever charity you want.
Yeah. All right.
Which, I mean, makes sense. I mean,
Funny guy.
right.
How did you do it?
yeah. What are you doing?
That's still $976.56.
Wow.
Okay, to whatever charity. Very
Yeah.
good.
And
Very cool.
Jeremy, that was so fast on the calculator. I cannot believe that.
Well
A
done.
lot of practice.
Yeah. But like we were talking about, I think that the problem with the entire situation is that I don't think Elizabeth Warren was really caring about Donald Trump's very generous offer to donate to charity, but more like proving that,
Prove that
her
she
Native
is.
American status.
Right.
And the
So-
report that they released was so like bold and brave, and like I really believe that being 164th to 1,024th Native American is actually something of substance.
Right.
I just think it's so funny.
So
Yeah.
do you think that Harvard Law should be asking for their money back?
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
she's probably donated a couple million in endowment, so I think they've already gotten their money back on that investment. But it's just
Hasn't she like gone up about possibly running for the presidency? in
right. Well,
2020?
that was the whole
Oh.
purpose of her doing this.
Yeah.
This whole shtick is to try to stand up the president and get some
Mhm.
visual, get her herself on the stage. You know what I mean? So-
Yeah. I think Donald Trump should actually take a DNA test because, like, I bet if he did, he may actually be more Native American than she is,
It's
and we
about-
could say we had the first Native American president,
all right.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Donald Trump.
Okay.
Could you imagine? Like, no, like just like in a hypothetical world where Donald Trump like takes a DNA test,
Right.
finds out he's like 20% Native American, right? like he's just straight Cherokee, right? Like that would be that'd be funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would cause some serious.
A little, yeah.
20%. Okay. Well,
All right.
we'll be right back.
No answer to that. We'll be right back. All right, now it's time for today's Southeast AgNet Report, which is brought to you by Everglades Farm Equipment, a family-owned business for the past 50 years with 10 Florida locations, including Fort Pierce, Okeechobee, and Loxahatchee. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, and welcome back to WSTU 1450.
That was on the spot. Good job.
Beautiful. I like that.
Great job.
That's my radio voice.
Welcome back.
Very good. Okay, very good. Well, we could talk about that.
The radio voice?
Yeah, before the radio voice.
Scarborough?
No, after Scarborough, we talked about what?
Bayer and
Yes, let's talk
yeah.
about the.
What were you saying?
Yeah, the Lauren Bayer Brian Mast debate that was on WPTV earlier this week. I thought it was really interesting. I think that TC Palm and WPTV gave their endorsement to Brian Mast, and like they're like really diverse with like who they give their endorsements to. It's not just like conservative or Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a really good debate. Both of them, I believe, both of them did speech and debate in high school. They're like really well spoken. They definitely like know how to address each other, answer questions. And they both had really good points. But like personally, for me, maybe a little biased, but like personally, like what I think the entire debate kind of was broken down to was that Brian Mast in his last 2 years has put legislation forward. It's either been passed or it's in the process of being passed, and it's Lauren Bayer's criticism of that legislation on a lot of issues like the environment, on gun control, stuff like that. They're like almost the same exact person. It's just that Lauren Bayer is criticizing the fact that either he hasn't done it this way, or with what he's already done,
So
it hasn't been the best. Yeah, I mean, again, that's just my perspective.
Right.
It's kind of like very small things. And of course, like that's how you run a political campaign.
Right.
But it's like they're really not fundamentally that different, because Brian Mast is definitely like much more moderate on gun control than any other conservative in Martin County would ever be. So they're really not that different of people, and they actually both went to Harvard, believe it or not.
So I'm curious because you watched it on TV,
Mhm.
right? And you were talking about the facial expressions or the absence thereof.
Yeah.
If you were to listen to the debate on radio, minus the visual cues, what do you think? Would you be thinking the same thing, or just based on the information? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we
I
read
mean-
visual cues, on behavior.
Well,
and
explain the
reactions.
whole visual cues real quick.
Yeah, I mean, at least when I was watching, I know I talked to a couple of my debate friends after it, after the debate about it. how like Brian Mast was very still, right? Very
Military
disciplined, military man, right? Like he was extremely still. And like when he responded to people, when he responded to Lauren Bayer on the commentator, he was like straight faced. And Lauren Bayer was like a little more like, not as conservative with her, not a, more little out there with her facial expressions, but like on the radio, it sounded dead even because they, like I said, they really both know how to speak very, in a very impromptu manner. And like, they're both like, I have no problem with Lauren Bayer. I don't have any problem with Brian Mast. I think they're both like qualified individuals. The only thing I really liked was that Brian Mast talked about Lauren Bayer's foreign policy experience because a lot of people don't know Lauren Bayer was a foreign policy, I wouldn't say an expert, but contributed to the Obama administration's foreign policy. And one of her big things was the Iran deal. And so, clearly congressmen and women really don't have like that much say when it comes to that. That's more like Senate and more Donald Trump. But it was interesting seeing Brian Mast go after her political record and what she did for the Obama administration in regards to that foreign policy. But overall, I thought it was a really good debate, and they're both very well spoken. And whoever wins, it's going to be a fine individual from Hardin County.
Okay, all right. Speaking of a fine individual, we've got our resident caller, Bob, is on the line. How you doing, Bob?
Hey, Bob. How's it going?
I don't think I've ever been called a fine anything. Man, jeez. Hey, I'm worried about the Redneck Riviera. Are they going to be able to vote?
The Redneck Riviera. Oh, you're talking about
that's what the Panhandle.
The Panhandle. Yes. That's a good question. I would think probably some of the polling locations are no longer in existence.
Oh yeah.
Frank, what election was it? I had a habit. I used to, on election day, I would vote, and I hit the keys, and I wouldn't listen to nothing all day. I didn't want to hear nothing, And one time I messed up. I had to listen in, and they were trying. I think it was Kerry. Bush. The Panhandle's in a different time zone, so they were trying to call it really early for Kerry. Remember, to try to get people in the Redneck Riviera who. A lot of them vote Republican, and that whole area, all the way up where that storm went, where Georgia and all the Carolinas that recently are just getting over the last one. I mean, that's a lot of Republican votes.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But that's what they did. They purposely tried to call it early to make people up there figure out it's not even worth going to vote. Kerry won already, and they did it intentionally, and the media played right along with it, and. Yeah, it was a pretty sad time, and I went to bed swearing that I told my wife, I said, I don't want the TV on, I don't want to know nothing until the morning. I already heard enough, and I assumed when I woke up it was going to be Kerry, and it was Bush.
Yeah.
So I mean, Florida and elections. I don't know.
It'll be interesting for sure. Yeah, but yeah, you make a good point about. What are they going to do because of the result of Hurricane Michael? So,
well, I lost a house in 2004 to Francis and Jean, and I didn't really even care about that. My son went away to boot camp and Paris Island, and it was the furthest thing from my mind. My problem was I couldn't get Fox News. I was missing my gals.
Humanity.
I was missing all my gals at Fox News and all the inside info.
Bob is an OG Fox News fan.
Yeah,
very good.
Hey, I think that's when I first called. That's when I first called your show.
All right.
Wow.
And in 2004, and I think it was Sean and I think Mike and Will Olds from South Fork.
Wow.
Teacher.
Yeah.
Great guy. Will Olds, great teacher. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Yeah.
But that's when I started. That was a lot of years ago.
It sure was indeed.
Well, 14 years have been listening to us. Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah, you guys are in diapers.
Yeah.
We were.
Yeah.
I was listening to you guys go goo goo gaga. Hey, I got an idea for all these people. If they're so scared of their countries and they're really coming here to seek asylum, hey, send these guys right to the military, give them some training, send their asses back to work on the drug cartels and MS-13 and the rest of them.
That's an idea.
Hey, I think he's on to something.
Whip your country into shape. Yeah.
Set it up along the border, and that's part of their job too, is border control while they're here.
There you go.
So,
That's actually
And
kind of an
Danny could
interesting
recruit.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
And they can pick through who comes over. You know, the bigger ones, the stronger ones that have a gripe against MS-13, the drug cartels.
Yeah.
And turn the rest back. Say go home.
Nice.
But they're getting bus rides and stuff. I heard today because they said it would take 700 days for them to walk here through that kind of country.
Yeah, it's pretty rough terrain. Yeah.
Oh, I've driven down to Baja when I lived in California a couple of times back and forth all the way to Cabo, and beautiful drive. But yeah, some of those roads are really rough.
Yeah. Make sure all your fillings are in tight. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you always see some of these towns down there. I mean, it's sad. It's really sad. Some in the middle, you go from the Sea of Cortez back to the Pacific. The road kind of meanders back from one side to the other. The most beautiful driving I've ever had. But you ought to see, you go into some of these towns, and you got these little kids who are like 7 years older in the back of the trucks with plastic 5-gallon containers going to the fields. I mean, they don't even go to school, a lot of them.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a shame down there. But so what do you guys do a lot of talking about this socialist that's running against DeSantis?
We were just going to bring that up about the interesting thing that came in one of the news pieces that was through Politico was saying that here it is here, PolitiFact rather, leftist Florida governor candidate Gillum makes the same error on unemployment rate as Ocasio-Cortez. So I'd have to open that up to learn more about what
Bernie must be giving them information.
Well, there's this leftist talking points, and they all just regurgitate them verbatim, and they don't fact check them first. And
the University of Billy Ayers.
Yeah. So
that's what that is.
Earlier this week, PolitiFact gave Florida's far-left Democratic gubernatorial candidate Andrew Gillum a pants-on-fire rating for his claim that Florida's low unemployment rate was under Republican Rick Scott was due to having people to work 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And
yeah, right.
So
we got. I heard 1,000 people a day moving to Florida right now.
How many?
1,000 people a day.
Yeah, it was 1,000
people.
Yeah.
Not 1,000 families, 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So I know a girl in the real estate business. She closed 5 houses in 1 week. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And these are nice houses in Jupiter too. So, and she's feeding us burgers. I'm going, hey, where's the king crab leg?
Yeah.
You just made more than I make in 2 years in a week. It's a great burger, but come on now, break out the claws.
All right, Bob.
All right, guys.
Well, we got to go to break.
I'm going to let you guys go. I got to get back to work.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Thanks for calling in.
You have a good one, Bob.
And we'll be right back, so please stick with us.
And we're back on WSTU 1450. Your host of the Treasure Coast. Reese Cabot, I don't know.
Welcome back, everybody,
Yeah.
to WSTU,
Wow.
the Treasure
Sorry.
Coast Forum.
I dropped the ball. My bad.
It's shattered.
Okay. What were we talking about? I lost my train of thought. You were looking at Lauren.
I was just asking Sam a little bit about some of Lauren Bear's stances on some of the issues.
Some policy issues, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that, like, you said that TC Palm article that was like, they didn't agree on a lot of policy issues.
Yeah, and you were saying that they agreed on a lot.
Yeah,
so,
it was like a lot of like really minute differences between like policy decisions. It was like Lauren Bear is like, you don't support people with pre-existing conditions, and Brian Mast is like, well, yes, I do. I went on the record in saying that, and Lauren Bear is like, oh, okay, well, if I'm elected, I will do a better job. And then it was like gun control. It's like you don't support us reforming the sale of assault weapons, and then Brian Mast is like, I do support the reform of assault weapons, and then Lauren Bear is like, okay, great, I'm gonna do a better job than you. It was kind of just like same solution.
Right.
Did you hear he spoke at like the Fight for Our Rights or whatever that is? March for Our Lives, and
I was there and I heard.
and he got booed off. That's what I heard.
It was horrible.
Really?
I felt bad. Like it was a really disrespectful crowd, I think. Oh.
Yeah. What exactly happened? Like I've just heard like all I've heard is just that he got booed off. Like what was he
was
saying?
talking about that he said, I've seen these weapons in action and no kid should ever have to see these. And then people just kept shouting like the bill name. I don't remember which one it was, but something that he signed off on that they weren't happy with. There's just a bunch of like idiots in the audience that were weren't really listening to actually what he was saying, because he was being very reasonable. He came to an event that wasn't really geared toward his side. He chose to go out of his way to speak at this event, and I just feel that the audience wasn't really respectful.
Yeah.
A lot of us are friends actually with the organizers of that event, and they've like talked to us a lot of times about it, saying that like they were trying to get people to stop booing, and like that wasn't their intention. That's why they invited them both, so they could get both sides. And really, it wasn't both sides. It was just the same idea from two different people. Yeah. And so the organizers weren't happy with that booing either, because he was definitely disrespected.
Mm. Same thing with what was it? The debate with Marco Rubio or something that.
Oh yeah, he had the after the Parkland shooting, the NRA like national spokeswoman and Marco Rubio went on a stage with the sheriff. What is it? Scott Israel from
That's correct.
From Broward
County. Mm-hmm.
And they just like which is I think is very brave in itself. The fact that like only like a week after this, they were out on the stage with a lot of people who didn't like them, and a lot of people had a lot of criticism against them, taking questions from these same kids, and they handled them really well. But it was like they were saying things that like anyone could really agree with, and I hope a lot of people would agree with. But that didn't matter to them. It was just you're Marco Rubio, you want to kill children, for $1.15 each. Like it's, you know what I mean? Or $1.05, whatever it is. Yeah, not too bad.
Oh my Lord.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
On that note,
what's next? What do you guys want to talk about? We only have 10 minutes left.
Absolutely.
Anyone excited for SAT scores coming out tomorrow?
Oh, I'm very excited.
SAT scores come out tomorrow. This is probably like the last one for all of us.
I think some
before
colleges allow you to take them in November.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is anyone here doing that?
I'm set.
It's fun because you can like send it and you don't know your score before you send it. So it's like it's like Russian roulette.
It's so annoying because if you're really nervous about it and you don't know what score you got and you're unsure about whether to send it, if you send it after, it's $12 for each send. Yeah. So it's either pay up or you have a shot at potentially ruining your admission. Your admission.
And College Board is a non-profit still.
Yeah.
So,
ripping in I read on the website $100 million per test, national or internationally and domestically.
Someone explain to me how they're non-for-profit.
Because it goes towards their salaries, right? They're just paid highly.
Something like that. They're
just paid highly.
And it goes back
they're
to,
paid very well.
The organization.
Yeah,
if you work for
non-profit.
If you work for the organization, you make money, but the organization doesn't like.
Well, I guess because they hire teachers to have do the tests, and they're not getting paid anything.
I mean,
is that what they mean?
I don't know, but
there's a 501c3, which means it's non. So they at the end of the year cannot have any money.
It's a nonprofit.
Non-for-profit, right?
So they do they
It's
just
not a charity.
dump all that money into their own coffers?
Yeah,
I guess so.
And
into
any other
test
expenses.
preparation and research and vacations to Geneva, Switzerland, and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Let's take a
You gotta
look
give them a
at.
break too. They're working hard.
I know. You know, grading
Yeah,
those
you can-
tests,
you can-
putting them into Scantron machines,
Yeah, they're
taking them out of Scantron machines.
Working really hard, just kind of grading everybody down.
You can really
Just get more
tell
money.
from the June
The
SAT
June curve,
how hard they're working.
the notorious.
I mean,
June
are,
curve.
are they still having that lawsuit?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Is that gone anywhere?
Probably not. It probably won't go
In
anywhere.
the garbage can.
And then in August,
Probably
they,
in the
they
garbage can,
issued
yeah.
an international test from like a year back that was like literally like accessible on the internet, like the same exact test.
Yeah,
I think they did something like that in October too.
they had Section 5, which, and they would not explain what it was for. I looked it up, and they're like, yeah, I guess it doesn't affect your grade, but it might.
Well, they're just being vague because they want kids to actually try on it. Section 5, for everyone that doesn't know, is basically an additional section on the end of the SAT that it's like an optional
It's random.
section, and basically it's the College Board running some questions through the testers, seeing if those questions are effective or not. And so
And I believe for each person, it's random. Like some person might have a
Right.
math, some person might have a reading.
you could
or
get a math,
grammar.
you could get a reading section, and they're just basically testing new questions out. But
Yeah.
they're very vague about the whole situation.
Which I don't feel is right. I mean, if you're testing me, I want to know like what I'm. I mean, they even say like, oh, when you sign this form, your handwriting won't affect your grade, but they won't tell us if this will or not.
Yeah.
So they're also vague about the college search service.
Mhm.
Like when I signed up for that, I had no idea what
Oh,
it was.
And your
Oh, yeah.
inbox gets
You
filled.
get 50 emails a day from
Yeah.
like
Yes.
Southern New Hampshire University.
No, they want me. They
Yeah,
want
they
me.
want you. We want you, Daniel Gerals.
It was ridiculous. Like they didn't.
I still get those.
It was like,
Yeah.
oh, if you want financial aid, just sign up. I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I like financial aid. I like getting into college. So then put it in, and then I've unsubscribed from each college individually, and I still get emails.
Keep coming back.
I'm already accepted into college. Like, I already know where I want to
You're
go.
just that qualified of a candidate. They
Oh,
just want you that
congrats
badly.
on Central Florida, by the way.
Thank you.
Hey,
Are
congrats.
you gonna congrats me too?
Well, are you definitely going to UCF?
I don't know. It's between UF and UCF.
Well, let me know where you're going, then I'll congratulate you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Wow. What a successful cast of
Cast of
students here.
characters. yeah.
Cast of characters.
Looking for the alliteration.
Yeah.
Yes.
Valiant young men.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So I was going. Connor, you remember me in English like a few days ago trying to figure out how to get my score sent, like paying $40.
Oh yeah, that was ridiculous.
So I thought that I'm applying to University of Georgia, and that was due the 15th. And
So
I
you want to be a Georgia Bulldog?
want to be
Go
a Bulldog
Bulldogs.
for life.
Bulldogs.
you know?
Yeah.
South Fork to Georgia. And so I go on the Georgia website, and it says, oh, they've only gotten your ACT scores. I'm like, well, it's early action's due in 2 days. Well, no, 3 days. Why is my SAT gone in? And then I go in, it says, oh yeah, they were sent, but they haven't received them yet. So I'm like, okay, how do I get this to them now? It's like, oh, you can pay $40 and have them sent in 1 to 2 business days.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, it's gonna at $40 for you to just email it. That's all you're not hand delivering it or sending it through a pigeon. You're emailing it. So
No, they rev up the horses. They
Yeah.
get going.
so I end up paying these $40, and then I realize, oh wait, yeah, they don't actually have to receive them until like a few weeks after. But as long as you see that they sent them, so I'm driving home on the phone with College Board, like, can you please refund me? They ended up refunding me, but you know how like when you call like a big company, you always have to like they have like that automated voice. It's like
Right.
if you would like to go to like if you want to talk about the SAT, please say yes, and then you're shouting in the phone yes, and they still don't pick it. And that was I ended up getting refunded, but it was just a hassle.
Oh,
And they just don't. There's no information. It's all guessing. It's
Yeah.
Non-profit, huh? Funniest joke of 2018.
Baloney.
Yeah.
Funny.
I say we start a coup to overthrow College Board, you know?
You know, they've got quite the monopoly on the market. It's,
Yeah.
them and the ACT.
That's why
That-
everyone, don't buy your standardized tests from College Board. Go to ACT, support your local
Absolutely.
farmers, your local ACTers,
organically grown,
organically
non-GMO.
grown, non-GMO, vegan, vegetarian options, stuff like that.
Gluten-free.
Gluten-free.
As much as I don't like College Board, I like the SAT more than the ACT.
I don't know.
That's just
I've-
me.
False.
It's just more time.
Yeah.
You know, there's no science, and I just don't feel like reading a bunch of lab reports.
Yeah, the science section, I didn't really know that much about it, but it was kind of just like looking at the tables and making sure like in this area, like you have to look at a certain square on a table. It's
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
It's
Well,
not too bad.
anyways,
That's enough college talk for today.
Yeah.
feel free to tune in next week when we talk more about college.
And politics, local, state, and
Federal.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. Well, we thank all you students for taking times out of your busy schedule to be in here. And,
Thanks
Yeah.
for having us.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
It's always a
Always a great
Fun time.
time.
all right. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week right here
Absolutely.
at Treasure Coast Forum. Good night.
Good
All
night.
right, everyone.